Watch out there now. What's that?
Good morning.
Morning. Grand rising.
Yeah.
Happening.
What's up, world?
It's the remix.
Happy Wednesday.
Okay.
Look at the matching shirts on the Luke Mons.
Oh, look at them, boy.
Looking like African Christmas trees.
Well, you know what?
Christmas candy.
You just one of the Christmas.
We'll put you on the top. We'll put you right on the top. You'll be the star.
Luke Mons look like the new African M&Ms.
What? Kamau in the building. Pushed his kids out the car in the drop-off line.
Threw the lunch
looking
out.
in the wrong lens.
He was driving away.
Look at him. He's looking all in the wrong camera.
All confused, not even hearing everybody.
Like,
this is a mess.
Like I guess I'll watch World Star this morning. Anyway.
Is that still around?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Hopefully,
unfortunately, yeah.
Sorry, with the remix gun running out of town. What's happening, y'all? It's your first time tuning in. You're rocking with the Remix Morning Show live at Black Power Media. You know what I mean? Well, we are
right on.
Fresh. Blood and Chug in the building, alongside Dr. Jab. You know what I mean? Baba Luke Mon, Jackie Luke Mon, Burn It Down, Kim Brown, and Kamau looking like he might be here, but then again he might not. But anyway, okay, he's here. The ear doctor made behind the scenes. What's good, people?
Hey, what's good? Hey, yo, the hater got some company, man.
Yeah, the
got
hater
3 of them.
Friends.
Game.
Out the gate.
Find 2 whole hating friends.
Yeah. No. They had a citywide haters meeting last night.
Oh man!
Watch we turn them to likes like we did yesterday.
Oh,
exactly.
That's right.
Hey.
Stick around.
We're going with you over.
I can't hate this.
I was late, so I put one hate up there for y'all. You know what I'm saying?
You put one up for us?
One of them was Kamau.
Good looking.
I might
I'm gonna call Ben Dixon. I know he's the other one, and Roland Martin probably on his show cats.
Hold on, who you say? Who you say?
Ben, my man Ben, that's my man. But I'm sure he's out there like, man, what these cats trying to do, man? We was morning showing before them.
Oh man!
And then you know, Roland Martin, or like my man said, Trolling Martin was probably out there. Martin. He's over there like, cause his whole thing is I'm the only one, the only black morning show, the only black daily. You know, so he hears us on his. You know, he hears the footsteps behind him. So
he better go get some Afro Sheen. You know what I mean? It's going down.
No, it's all good. Shout out to Ben Dixon. Shout out to Roland Martin and whoever the other mystery hater is. You know, good morning.
Mystery hater. And his two cousins.
No doubt. Get familiar. Glad y'all woke up this morning to rock with the Remix Show. You know what I mean? Anyway, man, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, as Mr. Rogers would say. Mm-hmm. It's Wednesday, as y'all pointed out. And there's a lot going on as always, you know what I mean? So we came to bring the pain, you know what I mean? Got a lot of exciting things coming on.
I was listening to a little Method this morning, and a little Redman, a little time for some action. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Let's get ready to rumble. We have the funk body statues. P-Funk, the delegate, I got ya.
That jersey.
Now you taking me back now.
I am a Redman scholar. I have a PhD in the Redman discography. So that's right up my alley.
Don't come for Kim. Don't come for Kim.
Well,
that makes sense. It makes sense.
You can't mess with me. I got a PhD in Redman's discography.
Can I tell y'all a story real quick? When Redman saved my life?
Oh man, Redman saved her life.
So it was the Month of the Man tour. Kalonji, you might remember something like this. Def Jam, 1999. Oh my God,
he is that old.
I know that's ringing some bells for you. So Method Man was pushing the T2 Judgment Day, right? That was getting ready to drop. Redman was getting ready to drop Doc's the Name, and they did a little club tour called Month of the Man, and this was like December of '99, I think, or '98, somewhere in there. So they came to the Ritz nightclub in downtown DC, 9th and E Streets. All my OG hip hop heads will remember the Ritz. So me and my homegirl went, and I'm 5'3". My homegirl was like 5 foot. And if y'all know, if y'all familiar with Red and Meth shows, it's nothing but dudes, right? It's dudes everywhere, dudes as far as the eye can see. So we up there at the stage, right at the stage, and they come out, and my friend left because it was getting too rowdy down front. So when Red and Meth come out, all these dudes start pushing me and shoving me, but they started like crushing me, like I couldn't breathe. And Redman on stage saw me. He reached out his hand, he pulled me out on stage, and he took me off stage and gave me the security guard, where I was like hyperventilating. I couldn't catch my breath. Wow. But if Redman had not have seen me, I fear I may have been crushed by all them dudes.
Man,
Redman saved my life.
That's right.
Hey, any dating? Any dating? Any Redman dating?
Oh no.
I'm just not, you know,
he was a
full
gentleman. He was all gentleman. What are you talking about?
My bad.
But I have a much less interesting and exciting version of a Redman story. I've actually a Red and Method Man story, because Red and Method Man gave, I've told this before, but their combination gave our funk band our name in that late 90s era, the greatest funk band in Western Maryland between 1997 and 1999. Mama's Biscuits, because on the Muddy Waters album, there's that Method line where he said, "We bomb killing, but ain't telling something better than your mama's biscuits," was the line. And I said, that's going to be the name of our band.
Wow.
And it became the name of our band. I will also say I heard Time for Some Action while in the military in Paris, in a basement club somewhere in the hood in Paris, and when that album first dropped. And that's where I first heard Time for Some Action. So me and Redman go way back. I got and Be That is my anthem.
The Yellow Man Red Man story. Ain't that cool?
Hey man,
my first name must be F.
I don't have a Redman story.
I have a Redman story.
Because I'll be
I
like,
saw Redman when I used to live in Newark. I saw Redman at the barbershop one time. I was coming in and he just got his cut and he was going out. You know, but there was a lot of hating on Redman in Newark at the time.
That was
man.
it.
Right.
Really?
Yeah, because when I lived in Newark, a lot of rappers, man, was saying that Redman wasn't putting nobody on. So, I mean, he was getting a lot of hate at that time, you know, so.
Ooh.
Yeah.
we would just stay hating.
Yeah, Redman was hardly on himself, though.
They was hating, man. They was, for real.
That's terrible.
Listen, only on the Remix morning show you hear about James Brown, Redman, Method Man, Redman saving Kim Brown's life before she burned it down.
It actually happened. Totally.
I mean, where else can you get it? I mean, can you learn about Jared's funk band? We got to talk about that funk band later on.
You're gonna tell that story.
Hey, Jared, do you have any old footage, man, of the funk band?
There is footage.
You said they call Limp Bizkit?
There is footage. Out there, we were killing it, man. I'm telling you, for 2 years.
Okay, 2 summers.
Any recordings? Any recordings?
There's a little bit. There's something we might dig something out. And I had my hair, man. I had the hair out. I was, you know what I'm saying? I had hair. You understand?
The light skinned Tito Jackson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's like I said, it's a lot going on. We're gonna have to definitely bring back Jared's Funk Band. I think that'd be a cool thing. We can raise some money, have Kamal dancing, you know what I'm saying? Baba Lukman DJing, you know what I'm saying? And maybe Kim and Kim got to be rapping.
Redman can freestyle and roll trees.
Y'all, they were doing this hip hop karaoke down at the Kennedy Center before they shut, COVID shut everything down, and it was righteous. It was rather righteous. The hip hop karaoke, I recommend it. So I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I know the listeners, the viewers are looking like, what in the world is going on here? This is not your mama's morning show. You would not see this on Roland Martin because he ain't like us. Understand that.
Boom bap breakfast.
That's right. Don't get it twisted.
Coffee.
Don't get a Limp Biscuit. You know what I mean? Anyway.
Y'all making me snort laugh this morning. Come on.
Whoa. I like the tease, the Lukmans. I like the tease.
I mean,
they doing it, huh?
Yeah. Matching tease. I like. Any significance?
Yeah, these are the new Pan-African Community Action T-shirts. They
Pop
are
in the building.
You can also get them, get sweatshirts, and if you are interested in procuring one, I'll drop the link in the chat for you. But
yeah, please do.
Y'all.
Shout out to Net for Freeman.
That's right.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yep.
It's a wonderful thing. Hey, and for the viewers, man, send us your T-shirts. You know what I mean? And perhaps we can, promote your stuff if it's on point. You know
Look
what
at
I
him
mean?
trying to get free clothes. Look at him trying to get free
Hey,
clothes.
I'm trying to look out for you, man. That JC Penney sweater ain't getting it in the summertime, brother.
I got Renegade.
Oh, my man. Oh, okay.
Renegade culture.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm talking about takeover, not a makeover, son.
Hey, yo, listen.
This is not Thursday or Friday or Saturday or whenever you all are doing your thing. Whatever. This is the remix.
Hey, look at Jared Hayden. Hey, Jared be on the air 24 hours a day. All right, this Jared Baldwin exclusive. I mix. Every time I wake up, all I hear is I mix.
Just Mondays, and maybe Friday mornings. Just trying to fill, the gaps in the programming until we get this thing, rocking 7 days a week.
Get it rocking.
I keep saying that 5 days a week. I want to do 7, but at least 5.
Weeks. I don't know, man. We got to ask the people out there if they want 5 days a week. Right now, we on 3 days a week. Folks in the chat room, hit us up. Let us know if you think we should do more than 3 days a week. And we'll be on it. You know what I'm saying? We'll make sure
you're just gonna get more Jared. So it's either get the remix on 5 days, or you get more Jared. So I mean, if that's what you want, I don't know.
That's the choice, y'all. Jared or the whole remix.
Jared remix.
Chat folks. I want y'all to drop y'all location in the chat too. I like to see where people are checking in from.
No doubt.
Yeah. Right
We're
on.
already weighing in 5 to 7. See what you've done.
Yeah, I'm saying.
All right, but then we're gonna do that 5 to 7. We need the patrons to go up then.
True.
That's facts.
I mean, we do need clothes. Look.
You're true.
That's facts.
Yeah.
Word.
Go up.
Yes.
Plus, we haven't gotten to the Kamal TikTok level yet.
Right.
We ain't get to Kamal TikTok yet.
I think we need 200.
We need 2 bills for me to do a little TikTok. I might do it to Redman. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we're going to do a little duet to Redman.
We can do that, man. Look at everybody checking in. We got Baltimore, New Orleans. What else we got? Yorktown,
Toronto
Virginia.
in the building.
What's up, Jersey? What's up,
St. Louis.
Speaking of Jersey, we gotta bring the ear doctor on, man. So you know what I'm saying? She rocking with it.
Yep.
Oh, wow. Behold, he has arisen.
I left.
Oh,
I gotta get it.
Hey, wow.
Juan Valdez goes to heaven.
Say it again, doctor. I said hard enough that I could chew a whole bag of rocks. Big up the Red Man Jersey in the building.
Yes.
Yo, Cinco de Mayo, man. You know I had to come with it.
Long Beach.
Wow,
Yo.
well done. Well
Man,
done.
look like Juan Valdez goes to heaven.
Hey, yo, I got that weather for y'all. Y'all ready to get it?
Let's
Yeah,
get
get
it.
it.
Yeah,
All
we'll
right.
bring it.
Remix.
What's good, people? I go by the name of the Ear Doctor. Cinco de Mayo. This is what we doing today. And in case y'all didn't know anything about Cinco de Mayo, Cinco de Mayo was originally done on May 5th. It was in celebration where the Mexican army defeated the French and they kicked Napoleon III's butt. And that's why they celebrate Cinco de Mayo. And people over here, they just drink, and party. You know, that's all they do. But anyway, let's get back to this weather. What we're going to do is we're going to start in Wilmington, Delaware. Big up to all my squares in Wilmington, Delaware State. I see y'all out there. The high today is going to be 71 degrees. It's going to be a little bit of rain. Now let's take it over to Chicago, Chi-Town, where they get down. It's going to be a high of 52 degrees in Chicago. Now let's take it to Paris, South Dakota, where we're going to have a high of 54 degrees. There's going to be some clouds. Now let's take it to the islands. Big up to St. Thomas, Virgin Islands. We're going to have a high of 83 degrees today. And then let's take it over to Amsterdam in the Netherlands. Wait a minute. We're not going to go there yet. Let's go to Mongo, Chad, where it's going to be very nice and hot, where it's going to be 103. Now, let's take it to where it is, as y'all all know, colder than a white man. And not just any white man. I want to talk about Robert Clive. Robert Clive, this dude was loyal to his employers at the British East India Company, where this dude straight up went to India and robbed and loot and left all the farmers over in Bengal, India with nothing. I mean, he talking about they didn't have any food or nothing. And then he used the money to get a seat at the table so he can do his politics and his takeover. So let me tell y'all where it's cold is Robert Clive. It is cold in Robert Clive in Amsterdam, Netherlands. The high today is going to be 36 degrees. So that is your weather for the day. I am the Ear Doctor. Now, let's take it back to Morning Crew. Yeah.
Hey, yo, what part of the Netherlands you say?
Amsterdam.
What?
Yeah, Amsterdam. Yeah.
Why you?
It was a little suspect the first time it came out.
He took Coretta to Amsterdam.
He's in Amsterdam.
I said Hastradam.
Yeah, okay.
That's where Coretta lives now.
Word.
Like he been to Amsterdam.
That's
right
what
on.
it is.
Hey, yo, Baba Luke Man saved you.
Yeah, I know. We got Cinco de Mayo to all my people over in Mexico. I'm out of here. I'll catch y'all next break.
No doubt, man.
Right on.
Peace to you, brother.
Yeah,
hey, we're listening to the remix, and we live from Amsterdam. You know what I'm saying? Just ran across Claretta on the mule. Welcome to the remix, man. We got some news coming up today. I think we need to bring that globe around to see what part of the world we rocking in.
Oh, don't we need some music with the globe or something?
Something is missing there.
Y'all miss y'all. You keep missing all the private chat production meetings.
They don't come to the meetings, man.
My bad. No, I just get a little quiet. I didn't know that was
push kids out the car faster earlier.
Yeah. throw and scroll at the same time.
Here's your mask.
Anyway, man, I don't know what y'all doing early this morning. Y'all coffee y'all got from my man Juan must have been a little tainted. But anyway, we're gonna come with some news real quick.
Mm-hmm.
From my man Jay Ball.
Oh, I thought you were going to start, but that's all right. I got one. First of all, I got one. Let's fade in, pun intended, a little bit. For my hip hop class, I came across this little gem, and since we had brought up our dear brother Sean Diddy, who I know Kalanji got many stories to tell. Yeah. I thought I would share this little, just a short little piece right here from this documentary. That I showed, at least in part, to my hip hop class. Let me just make sure the audio part is sound. I didn't see the. There we go. But this is just a little something to remind us where we are with the industry and where some of our at least nominal political leadership is coming from.
Puff is like my idol. You know what I mean? Like, he's one of the reasons why I wanted to be a part of Bad Boy, why I wanted to be a hitman. So Puff was like, I want to sign you to a publishing thing. I want to do this. I want to manage you. And I was like, this is like, Puff wants to do this for me? And I'm thinking, I'm like, wait a minute. If I sign all this stuff, that means he gets paid from everything I do. And even if I produce with him, it's like he's getting paid twice. I was like, get the fuck out of here. I remember we were like in the studio and I screamed at him. It was the first time
that wasn't enough.
I was like, how am I supposed to get any money? And he was like, all right then. It wasn't like it was no beef. And then it was like, all right, so you about to go to this party afterwards. So at that moment, I realized it's a difference between friends and business.
Just wanted to show that one little part, so we could be reminded where our political leadership is claiming to come from these days.
He just changed his middle name. Y'all heard that? From John to Love.
Did it again?
Come on.
He just changed his middle name from John to Love.
That's all right, man. That's all right, man.
Smells the same.
It still smells the same.
Still sell the same, definitely.
Yeah.
Shout
And
out to
he's still selling the
Shitty.
same pipe dreams through his music and his politics. So
Still.
Yeah. So anyway, we're not surprised at any of that. You know what I mean? We know that that's a tale of the industry. You know what I mean? Pun intended. Anyway, moving right along.
Anyway, so you going, Kalanji?
No. You want to finish up with what you're doing? Or?
I mean, look, the Luke Mod's got a good story too.
I want to hear from it.
But I got a couple. I can at least run one more. How about another real easy one, real quick?
Yeah.
A little simple one. This is where I start to feel old. I admit, when I see stories like this is where I feel my age. 12 alleged members of the Bloods were hit Monday with a 105 count indictment that utilized social media posts and songs by one of its members, rapper YFN Lucci. I don't even know if I'm saying that right, as evidence against them. Now, the only reason I bring this up, really, we should be talking about the over surveillance, the hostility, the politics behind street organizations. So I admit that I'm acknowledging my own contradiction in all of this, but I couldn't help but think to what extent we are being encouraged to self-snitch and self-tell through our social media engagement. We already know hip hop has a history of people like Lil Kim getting locked up for what is nominally or allegedly for what they say in their lyrics or what is even printed in the jackets of their CDs. That was part of her jacket, pun intended, back in the day. I don't know whether it's Tekashi 6ix9ine or whoever, there seems to be, or even some of my students who seem overly sharing in their social media, causing me to have to cut off all engagement with them. There's something going on where there could be fun. There is fun to be made, but I think that at least some of the seriousness would be how this society is being rearranged to encourage us to tell on ourselves. So I just wanted to quickly throw that one up there. Stop sharing everything.
Snitching on yourself. Basically.
I mean, it's crazy. Just this whole era. I mean, it's like you said, it's the era of the snitch. It's like I remember back in the day, maybe about a decade and a half ago, folks was walking around with "Stop Snitching" shirts. You know what I mean? I believe that came up out of the Baltimore area. I found it amazing to me that a dude would walk around with a shirt that says "Stop Snitching." If you have to be reminded not to snitch, and that's an ill dynamic. It's just how I saw it. You know what I mean? It's like some things are evident, but it's like nowadays, Tekashi, someone like that can go snitch on the whole block, the whole gang, the whole crew, and get out and sell 1 million records with no problem.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I mean, back in the day, that was unheard of. Snitching was not a forgivable act. And that's why you got folks like Frank Lucas and what's the other boy name?
Freeway Ricky Ross.
Nicky Barnes. No, I'm talking about these cats that are underground running. You know what I'm saying? You got some folks like Ricky Ross. I mean, he's front and center. And you have and the way I look at that is so many folks like, well, he was used by the government. Man, I hear you. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand it.
There's only one other thing I would just want to add quickly is that I was at least raised in a labor movement household where the origins for me, the snitching was not about don't tell on somebody who's breaking the law and terrorizing your own community. Snitching was don't tell on the people doing the organizing, the union organizing, the grassroots work, the underground stuff that literally got people killed. So I just want to throw that back out there. Snitching is not that I'm encouraging engagement with law enforcement. I'm just saying the concept of snitching was not intended to protect those within our communities who terrorize our communities. It was designed to protect those doing the good work from being told upon and exposed. But anyway, I made a contradiction and all that. Anyway. So thank you.
One interesting sort of side note, also legal side note, is the double standard. Also, that the idea that rap lyrics can be introduced into court as some sort of either prior statements or so forth when really we're talking about whether or not people claim this or not, you're talking about an artistic or a music moment in which lyrics are presented. No director would ever get called into court and their film used against them as a way of suggesting this is either something they believe in, what their real politics are, so forth and so on. So it's amazing too, Francis Ford Coppola doesn't get called in to court because there's violence on the screen of his movies, right? So there's this other awkward double standard that's obviously related around race and criminality of Black rappers that we also have to think about, and just in terms of a tidbit around how the legal system works. It's obnoxious and outrageous that someone would have to actually defend, again, something that's put on wax. I know folks like to believe the day, folks doing hip hop, everyone's got to pump their chest out and say, oh, this is my life or whatever like that. But you're talking about music that's meant to sell, records. So,
but not just rap, because I think that this is like Kamal just said, this is directed exclusively at Black artists. I remember the early 90s when Ice-T had his metal band Body Count. And they talked about openly killing fans and George W. Bush or H.W. Bush. And I mean, they got some federal heat for that. Heat in the form of like letters, though, not in the form of like charges being brought against them because of their lyrical content. So this only happens to Black artists. I don't know of any white artist that this has ever happened to.
Yeah.
Not just artists. We think back to the Panther 21 case. They had they used the Battle of
Algiers.
Battle of Algiers is one of the films from behind the reasoning of them making the moves that they were making. So although they're not artists or whatever, still utilizing films as the reason behind things, dealing with quote unquote Black folks, period, Black radicals, Black artists, whatever, you know what I mean? And that goes back to Paul Robeson and beyond, so, we clear on that. But then again, I mean, you look at back during the 80s, you had the 2 Live Crew. Right. Their case was monumental at the time with the whole Second Amendment. I mean, not Second Amendment, freedom of speech joint.
Yeah, First Amendment case. Yeah.
So
I mean, none of this heat. I'm a closet metalhead. Been one for a long time. Came up in the punk movement in DC and trust me, man. There's white folks been singing about crazy, violent, misogynist drug use, killing folks. Suicide, homicide, all kinds of stuff. Nobody has ever dragged any metal band into court for anything that they have ever put on wax.
That's not entirely true. That part is, I don't want to defend them. Some of them have been dragged in for where there have been attempts to use like Judas Priest and Ozzy Osbourne lyrics. But the key difference would be that none of them have said, I killed so-and-so on this day in this parking lot. That wasn't, so I'm not trying to defend. I just wanted to point out that some of them.
I would just say, to my knowledge, though, most of the times, again, my recollection is that these metal bands might have been dragged in around civil lawsuits when somebody committed suicide.
Yeah.
The idea was we're going to try to. Yeah, there was a huge case, and I can't remember the state, where a bunch of little kids were murdered. 2 kids were murdered, and the city tried to claim that it was Metallica, and because they were in Satanism, so that so it was that kind of thing. And of course, Ozzy Osbourne with his bat, chewing the head off bats and that kind of weird shit. Yeah, that kind of stuff is going to get you in trouble. But the kind of blanket demonization by not just law enforcement, but society as a whole really has never existed for, generationally, there's always been, as music changes, oh my God, Elvis is moving his hips, and, Jesus, these kids are doing the twist, and what the hell, civilization is going to crumble. But nothing like the heat that hip hop and rap artists have gotten. And that extends to even movies. Because like you said, Kamal, nobody dragged Francis Ford Coppola into court over the Godfather series.
But did you all see the new documentary about truth? Did you all see the new documentary about Woody Allen?
Yes.
This would be the one time where they appropriately used his films to show he got a problem with old men and young girls.
And that mug is still making movies.
But I wanted to say something about the thing about the oversharing, Jared, which I think is a pretty good point you brought up. There's young people that's really losing their lives behind these social media beefs. They were talking about I can't remember this guy's name from Chicago, Vaughn or Chief Vaughn or something like that.
King Vaughn,
yeah. And I mean, there's somebody who's on YouTube right now who really did a very good job, in my opinion, of putting together this timeline of when King Vaughn got into these beefs with these other guys, and they showed the Instagram stuff going back and forth, and I mean, real people are getting hurt. And I'm not saying, of course, I'm not endorsing the law enforcement side of it, but my question is this: how far is they going to push this? Because we know we come up in an era where it wasn't really like that, and so now it's like a lot of these rappers are feeling like their fan base is pushing them to become more and more, I guess, authentic. I don't know, but I think that's something that concerns me.
Yeah. And one last part about this too, which we didn't mention earlier, is only hip hop has had sort of a hip hop police squad that followed, tracked, listened to not only listened to the lyrics, but documented those and treated it somewhat like a COINTELPRO operation, which extended from Florida to New York and then later to Los Angeles, where officers were literally following these artists around, not because they committed a particular crime, not because they were investigating a particular crime, but strictly because of their lyrics, and their claim was that their lyrics somehow associated them with crime, and that became the basis for their basic people hunt on these folks about a decade or so ago, at least officially, about what we know so far.
Now, you represented a few of those artists, Kamal. Can you speak to that a little?
Well, yeah, I mean, there was a couple of artists who got some documentation about being tracked. I don't want to mention necessarily their names. They got tracked, and they were worried because one particular artist had got a car stop, and because they were being tracked, literally 15 squad cars jumped around, circled them, pulled them out, looked for guns, did not find anything. Of course, a lawsuit ensued. But the idea that these folks were basically being tracked, again, because of their lyrics, not because of any crime they committed, because of the neighborhoods they came from, and obviously because of their skin color, was enough for the society to say, we're going to target these rap artists. So it's not only just about what the artists do, of course. We know this is basically based on the fact that we as a people are targeted, and so they'll use what they need in terms of their means to try to attack us. So another reason to stop snitching.
Right. That's it. Way to
I can only think of one white artist who has been harassed, I think, and tracked, and now he's very much cuddly and revered, and that's Willie Nelson. They used to fuck with Willie Nelson on the regular. Yeah. They used to always be trying to catch Willie Nelson with some weed, and they routinely caught Willie Nelson with weed.
And John Lennon too. And if people, right. and I'll just say this: the doorman in front of the hotel the night that John Lennon was killed was a veteran of the Bay of Pigs invasion.
Real.
Yeah, so I'm gonna just leave that out there. I'm gonna just leave that. We can come back to that another day.
Okay.
Yeah, shout out to John Potash and doing that good work out of research. Him and some others out of Baltimore. But yeah, that's drugs as weapons against us. Check out that documentary. I'm telling you, man. So yeah, that's why we need to stop snitching on our own selves, because there's already this increasing web of surveillance trying to do it for us. So anyway.
Wow.
Yes. You listen to the remix. You're checking out the remix. We can learn about everything from Redman to hip hop cops. You know what I mean? 'Cause that's how we do it here. Anyway, from Cinco de Mayo to the Bay of Pigs, only on Renegade, only on the remix.
Look at you.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I got. It's too many shows around here, man. I feel like a revolutionary Steve Harvey or something. Drop the money.
What else we got in the news? What else is happening?
Yes, Tiffany Cross. What's happening?
Yes. Speaking of pigs.
Shots fired at the remix.
Block out.
Okay, so if people haven't seen the what is it called? Crosstalk or whatever on MSNBC, Tiffany Cross's show on MSNBC.
The Cross Connection.
The Cross Connection. Thank you. Because I'd be looking at it kind of, cross-eyed myself like this chick right here. She's supposed to be, the woke answer for MSNBC for the, black. She get to deliver news in a woke way for the black folks. But Baba, she had some heat for Tim Scott though.
Yeah, she did. I mean, let me tell you something. This also proves the hypocrisy of the so-called left establishment media and why we really need platforms like Black Power Media and our own platforms. Because, look, Tiffany Cross, she made the rounds on social media. Everybody was bigging her up. Joy Reid got on Twitter and talked about y'all need to tune into my girl because she going in on Tim Scott. And let me tell you something. She did go in on Tim Scott. She had some good lines too. She had a line where I really loved where she said that she learned not to argue with people who Harriet Tubman would have left behind. She also said that Tim Scott, he doesn't have no black constituency except those who are really deep into Stockholm syndrome. And she really kind of went in on him. The problem that I have with all of that is Miss Tiffany was really silent when it comes to the fact that Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, and Clyburn, they all said the same thing. And she was silent on all of that, but she went on Tim Scott. So it's just like the thing on when Obama was president, how, you had people on MSNBC, which is, to me, one of the biggest frauds posing as media. They were talking about, when people was actually losing their jobs if they had something to say about Obama. So I don't know. So we just throw this out there about the hypocrisy of the left when it comes to these type of issues.
Yeah, and the fact that, folks are quick, folks meaning these, these black faces and these corporate leftish and really that's just neoliberal media, Democratic Party sponsored media, because that's what MSNBC is. The fact that they can, we talked about this yesterday with that CIA video, the fact that they can use the language and pretend to be or present the image or the facade of challenging the establishment when they're challenging Republicans, but they won't do it when it's Democrats, because Biden, Harris, and Clyburn, like you said, Baba, they all agreed with Tim Scott about America not being a racist nation, but then they said some stupid stuff about, well, there are pockets of racism and, well, there are some people who have racist tendencies and we got to deal with them. And so for us, it's always what these people in the media don't say that is almost always more important than what they do say. Wonderful she had some heat for Tim Scott. Who doesn't? But the fact that she didn't have any heat for the Democrats who agreed with Tim Scott, that's why I called her what I did. That's some typical cop stuff. And that's what these folks are. That they are the media cops of the empire. And we got to be real careful not to fall into their little minstrel act of calling out the obvious racists and ignoring the undercover ones.
So we call her show now the Cross Misconnection.
Ooh, look at you. Look at you.
Yeah.
When we go to a break, you wait.
Shit. Is there going to be a lot of time for that?
Put it down. Put it down, Luke Mom.
Hey.
Sorry.
Hey. I'm not even going to comment on that. I was
Luke got a little shy all of a sudden. He got a little shy.
Over there blushing.
But that's the obvious thing is like they trap us into these rigid politics of liberal conservative, and then we're only allowed to argue within their framework, right? And that's how they continue to trap us. And you're right, like these mainstream politicians continually defend America, no matter what its records are. Its record is on race, on murder, on international exploitation. That's just the consistent and the constant in terms of their rhetoric around America. It's always we're getting better. It's always it's the best country in this and it's the best country of that. But they, of course, will never point out their own contradictions in terms of even the wealth that you've accumulated. You've accumulated that off of murder, off of theft. offer it. Again, like imperialism and your propaganda wars continue to support you in these efforts. But we continually have to break out of like the little paradigm that they've created for us for what's allowed for arguments, because arguing this Democrat Republican thing only leads us into a lot of nothingness.
And I think the lack of critique from people like Tiffany Cross to the Biden administration and Kamala Harris, that to me is just an indication of those kinds of people's desire to be like invited to shit. Like during the Obama years, all the black bourgeoisie was so excited because there was always some shindig at the White House and we got to get to the White House. And nobody wanted to have smoke for the Obamas because they wanted to see Stevie Wonder play at the White House, and that's what I get. I get a lot of that kind of vibe during this early portion of the Biden administration. Like these people want all the smoke for the Republicans, but it's like, Tiffany Cross, like, you're about the same age as me. Like, how can you have lived through Bill Clinton,
right,
Barack Obama, Joe Biden, been in the Senate since before we was born, and have this lack of critique for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris specifically, especially when it comes to America's not racist. America's not racist. Like, and the fact that Tim Scott, Biden, Clyburn, and Harris all said the same thing. I mean, we know what this serves. This serves the elite, sort of narrative about, America used to be racist, but look at all the progress that we've made. We've gotten so much better. But where's the evidence? that was the question I had for people. Like when I guess it was Kamala Harris on George Stephanopoulos' show, when she was like, I agree, America's not racist. Where's the evidence? Like, how are y'all arriving at
She
this
is the evidence, Kim.
Right.
Right. She is that girl.
No.
She is that little girl.
No.
I mean,
no.
yeah,
No, Howard University, I'm so disappointed. Howard University put Kamala Harris out on all of us, and I'm so disappointed in HU for that.
Howard still claims Puffy. Howard still gives Oprah to their graduates.
Yeah,
Howard still pays his president over $1 million.
Howard has James Comey in their fellowship program.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
So we gotta, and there's plenty of shade for other HBCUs as well.
But
these are not bastions of revolutionary, whatever.
Tiffany Cross, she don't want to piss off Joy Reid because Joy Reid got her that job. You know what I mean? Because when she when she premiered, I mean, they had the whole sister girl get together, and Joy Reid, I mean, she was like, just Joy, thank you, Joy, for bringing me in.
Yeah.
So so we know that Joy is a Democratic Party shill. So.
You pay me $30,000 a week too. I might be thankful too. I mean,
right.
Yeah,
like, thank you, Joy.
Jared. I mean, but Jared, come on. Can you imagine? I mean, I'm being real with y'all, okay? Like, we know what kind of money those network people make. I mean, could y'all take that money to get up there and talk favorably about the Biden administration and defend, the increase in military budget? And you know what I mean? Like, that's what that requires. Like, you got to get up there and sell the bullshit in order to get that money.
I'm a self-righteous fool that will cut off his paycheck to spite his face and be sitting out there broke, talking about I'm standing for the people.
All right,
broke.
That's why I'm on the Remix Morning Show right now.
I would have one good half a show where I fake the funk just to guarantee that first paycheck, and then when I get fired at the end of that show, right before they cut me off, like, okay, that's fine, but I still get paid, right?
but can I put this out real quick? Because something that Kim, you just said, I was just thinking about it. The people who did go against that narrative, like Cenk Uygur and all the rest of them, what was it, Ed Schultz? They all got fired from MSNBC. But I know
Cenk then got his money back doing the
But this is my point. This is the point I'm going to make. When black people get fired from these networks, they don't get that. So how is it that Cenk and Ed Schultz and all them? I mean, so there's something else there too now.
That's right.
We're going to have a spot for them when we get big over here.
That's right.
And Mark Lamont Hill had to find 5 jobs, right, to replace that one salary.
Yep.
Man. Well, there's always room in the basement of the Remix. Licking stamps.
Speaking of paid spokespeople and leadership.
Oh my!
You was going to take us somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, I've been it's crazy. I was talking to Jared earlier, and I keep seeing all this BLM stuff. And the more I try to just back away from giving them critique, you know what I mean? It's like they just keep coming up with more and more stuff. You know what I mean? So you got this. The latest thing is about the $26,000 that was spent on this whole jail reform retreat out in Malibu, or in some part of California. I can't get it right now.
I think that was it.
I think it was Malibu. Yeah. So you have that situation. 26,000 on a retreat. Then they were saying they paid a consultant that we know $260,000. Then on top of that, you have the thing with the houses, 1.4 million here, 500 something thousand here, another 600,000 here, another 400 something thousand here. Then we have the whole situation with the $90 million receipt situation last year after the whole George Floyd and Breonna Taylor thing situation. Breonna Taylor took situation happened. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, man, on one hand, we're getting all this information from the state. And on the other hand, it's being fueled by Black Lives Matter. The state can't operate off of something that doesn't exist, right? So I'm wondering, I kind of wanted to have a little discussion because it's a thin line between us calling out the obvious and adding fuel to the fire. But the question I have is on the accountability tip. Who are they accountable to?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the people? The state? Who?
If I can just quickly, because this dovetails with the last story I wanted to share very quickly, and then I'll we can chop it up real quick. But this story, speaking of sort of state-like media, Fortune magazine is not state media, but it serves most of the elite states in terms of its approach. And it's talking about an issue. You talk about this, these problems keep coming back up. This has been something I've been struggling with in terms of Black Lives Matter and this buy black and banking black issue. They've just come back again. This is a story about One United Bank, Kevin Cohey and his wife at One United Bank, which is partnered in particular with the LA chapter of Black Lives Matter to produce the Black Lives Matter debit card and all this stuff with JP Morgan backing and all this other kind of stuff. But it's just largely a commercial for black banking or banking black as a and we'll put the link in the description to these people. I don't want to take too much time, but it's basically a commercial for banking black as a strategy for black liberation. That is, I think, connected to this problem of leadership, misappropriation. Who are they accountable to? And when I tried to raise this directly with the leader of the LA chapter of Black Lives Matter some time ago, the response was very hostile and negative, cut off on social media, no follow-up, no conversation. So the problem becomes, if you won't talk to us, if you're not accountable to us, if we can't have a conversation with you, if you'll only give little what I think are silly interviews to Mark Lamont Hill and others like that, then what else are we supposed to do? And to whom are we supposed to raise these critiques? If not publicly, and we can't have the conversation privately, then where are we supposed to go? Because it presents as a consistent public problem for the rest of us to deal with.
Well, I mean, it undermines when these national organizations like the Black Lives Matter Global Network, when they're having these accountability and lack of financial transparency issues, what it ultimately does, it hurts the local chapters who are actually there on the ground doing the work. I know the people from Black Lives Matter Louisville spoke pretty publicly about this, for example, with a lot of the Breonna Taylor actions that happened in Kentucky last year. They were specifically critical about Tamika Mallory, and then this kind of gets convoluted because I know Tamika Mallory is not part of Black Lives Matter specifically. She kind of has her own thing, but she gets included in this lump critique of these very visible BLM leaders. But anyway, the local BLM chapter Louisville said that there was no coordination when trying to organize actions. They weren't talking to people who were very familiar with the situation about which best way to allocate resources, and resources that were raised on the ground there were not divvied up, I guess, equitably, according to the folks from the Louisville chapter of Black Lives Matter. So it undermines the work of the local people, really, when you have these national figures sort of playing funny with the money, which they are apparently doing. But I mean, I don't know if the leaders of the Black Lives Matter National are accountable to us. I feel like maybe a lot of that 90 million that they raised, I'm sure it came from the Black community, but I think a lot of that was probably white guilt, right? Like they have a lot of like recurring monthly memberships. That's how they generate a lot of their revenue through fundraising in that way. And I mean, we have to discredit them, I guess, as individuals, but not necessarily the movement as a whole. And I feel like the BLM name is tarnished really as a result of this, because it's being, you know, synonymous with like a grifter organization or a grifter group, or people that are just trying to extract tens of millions of dollars from either the community or people that are sympathetic to the community for their own financial advancement, which on paper that looks exactly like what is happening.
I just wanted to show those graphics real quick because someone in the chat was asking about the debit card, and those were pictures of the actual debit card created by One United Bank and Black Lives Matter. So anyway,
I was going to say quickly too, I think that you have the reason why the accountability is so important is because these folks use the language of Black movements, Black liberation, Black organizing, seeking social justice. They invoke the names of the Panthers, of Martin, of Malcolm. So basically, we're talking about folks who are saying they're part of the lineage of the Black struggle. And if you are part of the lineage of the Black struggle, then you are open to critique and criticism, like all of us are, about the work that we do, what we produce, how we produce it, where those resources go. So I think Jared's completely right, is that these folks try to escape critique by not responding directly to Black left media in particular, and only responding to either corporate media or people who they think are going to give them a friendly ear to whatever they're peddling. And I think that becomes one of the main issues, is that there is no place to have a discussion, because then people put up the idea of these are only right-wing attacks. This is the state and you're doing the state's job. This is about attacking Black women. This is about attacking LGBTQ folks, as opposed to saying, what we're talking fundamentally about is whether or not your efforts are pushing along a Black liberation struggle, as you suggested is, a struggle for power, as you suggested is, or whether or not you're doing, again, the same things that we critiqued people like Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton for doing 10, 20, and currently, years ago and currently, for this idea that you're going to get corporate sponsors, and that's how we're going to get free. You're going to jump in front of media cameras, and take certain positions with families, and do the same sort of run-of-the-mill activity that ultimately produces bigger salaries and corporate endorsements. So I think there's a real struggle to be had, and folks have to be willing to have it. If they claim that they're not perfect, who is? That's not enough of a sort of mea culpa. The idea that we're not sitting in a room together and able to have those discussions and talk about not only with us, but also with like you said, with the chapters. You can't create chapters all around the country or allow those things to spring up and they act in your name and then suggest that you have no responsibility for those chapters whatsoever. And then when you get hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank, that those things are just not some sort of collective decision making, even around how some of those resources should be divvied back out so that folks can sort of partake in terms of their street organizing in ways that continue their local struggles that lead to a national movement.
Absolutely. And they brought it on themselves. You're listening to the remix. We're going to bring the ear doctor in to spin a little bit and get this Black Lives Matter stench up off our clothes. We're going to make it happen around here. Where you at?
What's up, ear doctor? You on mute. We don't hear you, brother. We don't hear you. There you go.
I came to give y'all a quick artist spotlight. You know how we do. Keep it moving. Mm-hmm. So put you on to somebody new. Let's do it like that.
Remix.
These beats is hot right here. This is by my peoples right here, Ace Fidel He got that hot beat, so I got to give it up to my man Ace. Anyway, so I want to do an artist spotlight on the brother I've been knowing for a while. He's been doing this thing on the scene in Atlanta, coming from a group back in the day known as the Lions Den, and he goes by no other than Ekendayo. So Ekendayo got this track I'm gonna play right quick, and it is called Ekendayo, and it's done by Illustrate Remix. So check it out. We're gonna do it like this.
Satellites transmit info. I acknowledge my advantages, instrumentals. Kick, snare, spit, clear, message involved. Moving with the blessings of God. Universal rawer than the new rehearsal. These Jews for you personal. I move the earth to. Pullers galactic, take no bull from rappers. More than half of you are actually actors. Your factor is fiction. I break backs and bring it back to tradition. I'm rapping, I'm singing, my diction fracture your figments, repping my pigment. A step in the pig pens with a clean mind and ink pens. Been streamlined since when? Trust I before time. You crush when I bust these raw rhymes. I keep that rapping sneeze with me, cause my future brighter than Japanese pygmy. Now give me the cash and the chippies, the states and the sorted properties. Quickly. Ekendayo, what you want to do for that? Script the truth for that. With the fluid pen, then what? Put the then up, then what? Do it with the force and the ancestors sent us.
All right, that's my people right there, Ekendayo. Yo, if you got some dope music or something like that, send it to eardoctormusic1@gmail.com. Make sure it's talking about something. If it's singing, rapping, poetry, make sure it's about something. We ain't just playing anything. You got to come with it. So that's what it is right here. I'm going to take y'all back to the morning show. Let's go.
Acknowledge my advantages, instrumentals. Kick, snare, spit, clear, message involved. Moving with the blessings of God. Universal roarer than the new rehearsal.
All right.
That's hot. That's
yes,
hot.
Indeed. What's happening?
Ain't nothing. That's
Good
my
stuff.
man.
What else is my bad? Go ahead, here, doctor.
Oh yeah, I was just saying that's my man Ekendayo, Lions Den. I'm sure you know a lot of people in Atlanta know. So I just had to play that, some dopeness he got.
No doubt. Shout out to Dio.
Word. So that's what it is. Spotlight on him. Make sure y'all people got some dope music, whatever. Send it in. Y'all seen where to send it. I'll check y'all next break.
Hey.
Peace.
Yes,
It's also hot that we have almost 140 people watching. Get the likes up, please.
Thank you,
and
Jerry.
share
Because
and
that's what I was
subscribe.
wondering. I said we got almost 140 people in here, and I see 91 likes. Now that math is not mathing, ladies and gentlemen.
The math
I
is
don't know,
wrong.
man.
It's not connecting.
That math don't add up. Anyway,
I mean, I know they mesmerized by this is a good morning show, but just break away just real quickly and just hit that like button.
that's all y'all got to do. You know what I mean? Share, retweet, and all that good stuff. Anyway, it's the remix.
Morning show.
Yes, indeed. Check it out. So I think we need an update. Usually we do an international update round about this time. You know what I mean? I think we got something on Haiti with the main man Kamal alongside Mamira Prosper. You know what I mean? She gonna come drop some stuff on what's going on in Haiti. You know what I mean? Because it's necessary. So we gonna fade the black and bring it on back.
Right on. Dr. Prosper is proper.
Yes. The remix, baby.
Hey,
Morning.
good morning. How are you doing?
I'm good. I don't know. You guys are all energized so early in the morning. I'm just waking up. So
We had shots. We had shots of caffeine before we got up this
been
morning.
at it for an hour. So
And I was did you see my little graphic? They finally gave me a little graphic. You know what
I
I'm saying?
didn't see your little graphic.
I'll make sure they put it back up. But
Okay.
enough of my foolishness. I want to thank you so much for coming on. Kalanja gave you a brief introduction. Your name is Mamira Prosper. You're an organizer, activist, PhD, a member of Community Movement Builders, and you lead up our Pan-African Solidarity Network. I want to thank you so much for coming on. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, and thank you for you guys, holding down this show and putting out the good word.
Thank you so much. So I want, we have a limited amount of time. I wanted to bring you on because in the past, on our other show, Renegade Culture, we've talked about the situation in Haiti, sort of the explosive nature about what's happening with the president in terms of choosing not to or deciding not to step down, but to continue on and extend his another year in office, trying to push through a constitution. There's been over a year, street demonstrations on the street. And this has all been laid over with acts of violence and kidnapping and obviously COVID. So we haven't talked about it here yet on the morning show. Can you give us a little summary around what's happening in terms of the political crisis in Haiti at this moment?
Absolutely. So one of the first things I wanted to start out with in terms of, messaging, because a lot of us have been trying to reconstruct the discourse, right? The first thing is that Jovenel Moïse never actually had a popular mandate. I think that's the first piece that we need to re-emphasize. And why I say that is, part of the contestation over the term is actually when he was officially sworn in versus when elections should have taken place. So the first round of elections, which took place in 2015, were marred, right, with fraud. So even the so-called international community that usually comes in to surveil elections had reported fraud, right? So for example, 44% of the votes were cast by people who were dead already. They ended up calling them the zombie votes. And that's why there was a recall for another set of elections. I think that's important to note that from the beginning, people rejected the result of that election. And anyway, Jovenel Moïse was not even at the top, right, in terms of finalists. So there was an interim government that took over power, and that government was chosen by the Organization of American States and the president that was sitting in power at that time, which was of the same party. And they actually didn't pick someone according to the order of the Constitution. They went ahead and picked someone else, right, that sort of, was a compromise, if you will, president. So I think that's important to note that from the beginning, he was rejected, and for a couple of reasons, nobody knew who he was, right? So sort of that outsider, I'm a businessman, like the sort of same Trump discourse, right? I'm not part of the system, and I'm a business person, and I'm going to come and run the government, that way and do well. And also because people had rejected that particular party, right? That party had already been in power for 5 years, also put in place by the U.S. Embassy, France, Canada, by the Clintons more specifically. So people, by the time they were going to get a second round of this party, rejected him. I think that's really important to know. And since he actually took power in 2017, when he came in, after a year of, missing the electoral calendar, the first thing he did was rebuild the military. And, this is the same military that Aristide disbanded in 1994 when he returned, or 1995, because, right, that's the same army that organized the coup against him in 91. And this is the same army that was, right, at the head of the army, CIA-trained officers, right? If you're thinking about the School of Americas, I think it's been renamed something else. This is where that particular general had been trained alongside, like, the other dictators of Central, right, and South America. So you see how the U.S. continues to play at hand, right, and what happens in a place like Haiti. And this Haitian army in the 90s was essentially a legacy of the army under the dictatorship, which is itself, right, a legacy of the U.S. occupation. The U.S. essentially founded this new army in 1920, right? So 100 years later, Jovenel Moïse, the first thing he does is bring back this army, right? And so that already tells you what his plans are, because Haitian army hasn't fought, any international troops, right? We have the UN troops, international troops on our soil. The Haitian army has never lifted a gun to fight them, but yet it's reconstituting itself to fight who, right? So, and then by the time you get to 2018, folks are starting to ask questions about where the Petrol Caribe, the Venezuela petrol funds had gone. And when finally the reports came out after popular pressure, this president is named in the scandal, right, as having squandered millions of dollars, right? And there's, little, information coming out about how much money, 200 million plus money that he has in some bank in Panama, right? And so I think that this is the beginning of folks asking him, well, first of all, we never wanted you. Second of all, you're a crook, and we need you to step down and face right justice, and set an example for a country that has only experienced impunity. Right, the people get massacred, the people get killed. Right, essentially, we see how that they. I lost my train of thought because I saw a little message at the bottom.
That wasn't for you. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So I think that that's important to note, that people rejected him. Like since 2019, the call was made that he should step down and he should face a trial. That we should finally be able to try people who wrong the population at large.
And instead, it seems like what's been happening is you've had, the system in Haiti is you have these prime ministers that run the actual sort of day-to-day operations of the government. And so what happens is that as opposed to him ever stepping down, who really holds the sort of the power, these prime ministers get appointed, they step down, and he tries to present that as reform. Yes. And tries to ask people to say, hey, this is me hearing your concerns. And so now I'm going to have this person step down and bring in someone else to run the day-to-days, because that person turned out to be terrible, even though I appointed them. And it's mixing with that. And now he's also trying to do this constitutional reform that gives the president even more power than what they currently have, and is using that as sort of as partly, I guess, as an excuse or rationale for staying in office longer. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So first, the whole tactic of the prime minister changing it, this party has used that the first round. Right? Every time people protested and they demanded X thing, they were like, oh, the prime minister's resigned and we're getting a new one and everything's going to go well, right? I think Jovenel Moïse is on his 5th prime minister at this point. There's a new one that just came, in, a month and a half ago, something like that, right? And of course, they're supposed to be sworn in by a Senate, right? Which doesn't exist since, January 2020. So Jovenel Moïse is essentially at the head of the country, completely alone. And he's even said as much, right? After God, it's me, right? In this place. And so, first of all, him changing prime ministers without having an actual parliament to confirm such prime minister is already unconstitutional, if you will, right? The fact that he's ruling alone is already unconstitutional. So it's no surprise that is the piece of document that he's interested, in reforming and changing. And, we know how important the law is in terms of, the way that capitalism specifically, or in this case, authoritarianism comes to establish itself. It really relies on laws. If you look at what Jovenel has been doing, even when there was a parliament, is that he kept passing decrees, that he gets to alone decide to pass X law to do X thing. For example, give away 8,000 acres of land to one of the local oligarchs in Haiti, at the same time that he's been carrying this Black nationalist discourse about how the oligarch, who are typically the sort of big 8 families in Haiti are of Syro-Lebanese descent, right? So sort of juxtaposing this between the Black population versus this non-Black population elite, and yet passes the decree to hand over to these so-called people who are trying to undermine him, for free, 8,000 acres, Establish a free trade zone here. You don't have to pay taxes. You can do whatever you want on it, right? So anyway, so to your question about the Constitution, one of the things that this government has sort of taken up in terms of trying to legitimize itself is organize a referendum, which the current Constitution rejects. And part of that, the reason this 1987 Constitution rejects referendums or referenda, whatever the plural is, the academic in me is like, what's the plural, right? But essentially, so this is a document that was essentially voted in by the people after 29 years of dictatorship. And the folks are trying in that constitution to prevent this very same thing, where one dictator can come to organize a referendum only with the people he selects, right? So he supposedly organized a series of meetings and dialogues with the civil society, where he's handpicked groups that essentially support this government. Many folks who were leftists yesterday, and who were anti the government, have decided to come into this process, and he's really good at using the ways that the international marks whether you're democratic or not. So We're going to make sure we have women's groups and LGBT groups at the table, right? And that shows that we're progressive and that no one can say this is a dictatorship. We have women here. We have workers here, right? We have all the different, groups that show that we are willing to move forward, right? With a larger concept of who gets to be included in the nation. So he's playing that game. And essentially the Constitution, what it's trying to do is change several things. For example, extend the power of the presidency, right? Allow folks who traditionally were barred from running to run. So that 1987 Constitution barred anybody that was related to the dictatorship, the Duvalier dictatorship, from running for office, right? So now they want to open up for any of these folks to be able to run for office, for example. The biggest part is, right, and this is playing the game, right? They reduce the age limit for people running for office to 25. So that's their, we're including the youth. They're also demanding that 50% of anybody who gets elected or participates in political life be women, right? That sounds progressive, right? But that's part of like playing that game, right? Of trying to legitimize itself. And the big piece is the diaspora, right? For people like me who could come to run for office, potentially the highest office in the country, though I hold a passport from another country, right? And that the diaspora could vote in. So what they said basically is if Jovenel Moïse was voted in only with 550,000 votes, right? That's how many people actually voted for him this, for this round. That the diaspora just in the US is 1.2 million, that if we were to be registered to vote, we could come to decide who actually runs the country, right? And so he's playing that game because all of us were having our little identity crisis, right? We're living in white supremacist land and, feeling like we need to run away. And we hear, right, that Haiti's going to open up this possibility for us to be included. Though the diaspora, right, is interested in this new constitution being played, right, and pinned against the people who actually live in Haiti and who have to deal with the everyday reality there. For example, the reality of COVID, because you mentioned COVID, and I want to bring this up.
Yeah.
234 recorded deaths so far in Haiti. We assumed that, right, it was going to be a shit show in a place like Haiti, right? And actually, the Haitian people have survived this even better than we expected. And, we're grateful, right? Haitian people are more concerned about kidnappings, 244 alone in 2020 versus 234 COVID deaths, right? So the way we've been operating and understanding COVID protocols here in the state, that's based on a very nuclear idea of the household, right? That you can somehow stay within just your household and socially distance. That's not the reality of somebody living, right, in urban Port-au-Prince, where your living room is the streets, right? Your neighbor is your family. And so even if a diasporic person had to imagine policies related to COVID for a place like Haiti using their experience in the States, they would miss the mark about the reality in that place, right? And so how can that person come to decide what happens in Haiti simply because they can claim being Haitian while they continue to hold the privilege? You can't have your cake and eat it too. You got to pick. Right? If you want to be in Haiti and be Haitian and run the country, then you're going to have to give up that U.S. passport and move back home and do the work. Right?
So let me jump in.
Vote.
Let me jump in. So let's get to what's happening on the streets. So it's been well over a year. It seems like there's obviously folks who are organized opposition, but even unorganized folks, like everyday folks who've been suffering, again, like you said, not only under the pandemic, but the sort of the normal suffering that happens under Haiti, which is greater than a lot of other places because the hoarding of the resources and the giving away of it to not only the sort of oligarchs in Haiti, but also sort of transnational corporations from the United States who control a lot of now farmland and import rice and so forth and so on. So, but more specifically, the folks on the ground have reacted, and it feels unprecedented, even though there seems to be somewhat of a news blackout here around how much action, organizing, street demonstrations are taking place, even under these conditions. Can you talk a little bit about what's happening on the ground and the forces that may be related to those actions that are pushing some of this unrest to take place?
Yes, thank you for the question. In general, right, there's like what we're calling the opposition. And typically when folks talk about the opposition, they mean, right, the political parties that at some point had representatives within the parliament, right? And because there's no parliament since 2020, it's really an opposition that, and in name, in a sense, right? They're not actually part of the state structure, if you will, because the state right now is really one person, right? So a lot of them are senators or deputies, right, that were at some point in parliament who constituted themselves into what they're calling the democratic sector and speak, right, as political parties, right? People who are clearly positioning themselves to, run for office, right? And we're already seeing a split, right? At some point, they had some amount of uniformity in their opposition, but right now, a couple of them are starting to switch over and want to enter in dialogue with the president because, they're hoping to run, even though they're saying we don't want these elections because, right, we have kidnappings and security issues. If people are afraid to go just to the supermarket or to the market, right, to buy food, how are these same people ready to vote, right? That the conditions are not appropriate. We need to deal first with the security issue, right? And they want a transition government, not let's just do another round of elections. We already had 2 where we saw the US single-handedly decide who was going to be in power. Why do another sham? Why pretend, right? But there's already about $20 million specifically that has gone to the UN mission that's still in place in Haiti to organize elections. So they're committed. They're not listening to anything that folks are saying, right? They're committed. The money's been given, equipment's going to be bought, and they're going to run, they're going to run with it. And we got to stop it, of course, right? But there's about 3 of them, right, who are sort of shifting their position. And part of it has to do with many of them do have US passports, right? And they're sort of like, well, if this constitution went through, this would be great because I can run for the highest office in the place, right? So you have contradictions within the so-called opposition, but you also have the leftist party, right, who are calling for what they're calling Xavier Chaudet, so right, a break with the system. And they're not using the language of revolution, right? But this sort of the idea is that we need to completely walk away from what we've been doing, right, for the last 30 years. And so those are sort of the parties who are no longer right on the same page. But you have like the people, right, who are organized in several different organizations, right, neighborhood associations, or unions, right? And then, as you pointed out, the people who are not part of organizations who also show up on the ground, right? And who are, I think, joining new organizations. That's part of what we've seen over the last 3 years is that people are showing up on the ground, but they're also then joining, right, specific organized efforts to keep pushing. I would say what we've seen in the last 3 years is a shift in terms of different sectors of the population actually coming to join the call for the president to resign. So in February, we saw like the Protestants, right? Like I shit on them a lot, but I was just like, wow, I am so surprised that you guys like finally came through, right? It wasn't the Catholics, right? It wasn't like that liberation theology moment. Now it's the Protestants, and they came to the streets and they echoed the call, right? Like asking for peace, asking for these kidnappings, right, to be dealt with, and asking for the president to step down. So we've seen, other sectors that have stayed silent for too long actually joining in on the call. And you see also the kidnappings are starting to target religious people, and including Catholic priests who have been extremely vocal, right, using their platforms to speak back to inequality, right, to insecurity, and calling on the state to take its responsibility. And there was about 2-3 weeks ago a kidnapping of, right, one of these priests who's extremely political. We're seeing also, right, the murder of, really within the police, there's also, right, discontent and dissent. And some of the police officers are starting to claim that they're removing their support from this current government. They're not necessarily joining the people on the ground. They're not saying we're going to become a people's army, right? Mm-hmm. But that's a potential for some kind of new realignment, if you will, right, against what we see is emerging, right, as a full-on dictatorship. So those are some of like the different actors on the ground who are not always protesting together, right, at the same time, but that, essentially they're all the folks on the ground who are making a variety of claims, right, including But everyone's agreeing that this president must step down. Yeah.
So I think we've run out of time. I want to thank you so much, Dr. Prosper, for coming on. You are the best. I love your analysis and your on the ground work. You know, unlike some other folks who may talk about Haiti, you are on the ground. Obviously, you still have family there. You go back 2 or 3 times a year, participate in a lot of these street demonstrations. So your information is not from some sort of outside of observer status, but from sort of a true radical organizer who's on the ground. So thank you so much for coming on with us and sharing on the remix. Thank you. All right, let's go back to our, you hold on right there. Let's go back to our morning show with the remix. We'll be back.
Very well done, good people.
Yes, we've returned. Yes, man. Yes.
Shout out to Dr. Prosper, the proper Dr. Prosper. That was dope.
Yes,
and good questions, Kamal.
Good questions.
Yes.
I try to be informed, you know, when I have a guest and I want to talk to them. You know, I do. And I like my pictures, so you know, I was like that.
You know what I'm saying?
You look very thoughtful and
I did. You know, it's my Malcolm poem. I do my Malcolm.
Yes, that was cool, man. Malcolm Jamal Warner's back again. All right, now.
Hey. Good morning, Dr. Chile.
Morning. Hey, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. The positive energies have just arrived.
That's what that feeling is. Oh,
Balance out this insanity.
It's all positive. It's all positive. I'm such a fan of the show. I just wanted to say that I wake up every morning, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, listening until I can get on. It's great.
That sounds like the drop right there, y'all. You know what I'm saying?
It.
Let that be the lesson for y'all.
Am I going to have to stretch today, or what's happening?
No stretching is necessary today. I'll try to give you guys more advanced warning.
Okay, good. Well, that's helpful. Anyway, I think that right about now we need to bring the doctor of doctors, the mighty, straight out of today's out of Mexico. You know what I'm saying? Coming through with the sun behind him.
Poncho.
I know what happened to the poncho. Sell out.
Hey, it's the 5th of May is almost over. Cinco de Mayo is almost over.
It's 9:24 in the morning.
Right.
It moves quick. Yo, I got a new quick segment for y'all. So stay tuned and check it out. Check the rhyme.
Right on.
Hey.
Remix.
Shout out to Juan.
Yo, what's good, everybody? This is the Ear Doctor once again, taking a quick break from the morning show. I just wanted to talk to our old school hip hop heads out there. You know, sometimes we be saying that the younger generation is trash, garbage, and you know they come with mumble rap and stuff. But I just want to do a little self check. I got this little segment called Check the Rhyme. We got to remember that before mumble rap, it was mumble singers. So check this out. So with that said right there, I want to show y'all one of the first, not one of the first mumble singers, but we know one of the first mumble singers was no other than James Brown. We just did a little thing on his birthday, May the 3rd. So I want to take it to another mumble singer. Now, check out this mumble singer right here. This mumble singer, we're going to even look at the lyrics from this mumble singer. Check this out now. Now, as we know, Michael Jackson, who was a mumble singer also, we didn't know all his lyrics, but check this out. Let's look at what he was talking about in the song, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. Here's the mumble.
You know, I was just thinking that you should keep on because, you know, the force, it's got a lot of power and it makes me feel like, oh!
Y'all ready for this? Check the lyrics. Here we go. 2, 1, let's go. Lovely is the feeling now. fever. The temperature is rising now. Power. The force of Val. What? That makes it happen. Get closer to my body now. Just love me. Till you don't know how. Now check out the hook. With the force, don't stop. Keep on. With the force, don't stop. Don't stop till you get enough. All right. So getting back to it, he was talking about the force. Now, what is this force he's talking about? To me, it sounds like love, but I ain't gonna lie. I've been singing this song for decades and didn't know what he was talking about. So let's keep it 100. Mumble rap. Before mumble rap, there was mumble singers, and that was James Brown and Michael Jackson. Now let's take it back to the morning crew and have their thoughts.
Wow.
I want to know what you thought he was saying, Ear Doctor. That's what's important.
I agree with Ear Doctor. I didn't know. I was like, don't stop till you get enough. Keep up with the fun stuff. Don't stop.
Hey, Ear Doctor, what about that one where Michael be like, come and say, come and sign us out to about
That's not it either.
That's not it
exactly.
either.
Mama said,
No,
it's not. I'm gonna say it on the side of Michael's house. That's not what it is.
Mama say, Mama boys to Michael's house. Mama say, bring your boys to Michael's house. Mama say, bring your boys to Michael's house.
That's terrible.
Hey.
First of all, y'all gotta get that straight. Michael was innocent on that joint. Them kids lied, man. You gotta check the latest documentary on that. That's all been exposed. Michael got set up. He is not in the R. Kelly category. He's definitely not in the Woody Allen category. Enough with that.
Okay.
Hey, but he
Free
was
Michael
a mumble
Jackson.
singer. He was a mumble singer. I'm just gonna say that, and I'm gonna get out of here.
Hey,
that was dope.
Yes.
That was dope.
There's some other nominations in the chat about who else is a mumble singer. I think Melinda said that Anita Baker is a mumble singer. I'm gonna throw Janet Jackson in there.
No,
man. You can't violate Anita, man.
Don't you ever say about Anita Baker.
Never.
That is some nonsense.
Wait. Anita Baker is the yawn singer.
He's always tired.
Yeah, listen. The two ABs, Anita Baker or Angela Bassett, will get your wig pushed back trying to violate them. Let me tell you that right now.
Put your old man cane down, Kalonji. Stop waving that cane at me, Kalonji.
Like
Can't say nothing bad
about Anita Baker, bro.
Let's all get baked like Anita.
Hold on.
That's right.
Hold on. I think there's actual evidence that Anita Baker is a mumble singer. No one says that Anita Baker can't sing, but Anita is very.
Hey, we know
we
she
talk about
meant.
Michael Jackson, but we can't talk about Anita Baker.
Amen.
You bring me love,
You gotta stop that too. That's not helping.
I think we have a lot more political alignment than musical alignment because y'all just disrespectful this morning. Y'all just doing so much.
Well, speaking of the force, though, Dr. Ichile,
yes,
bring us back.
Yeah, so I was actually going to say MJ was spitting because he was talking about the force, which is a very important vital energy. And you know, I'm always talking about vital energy. I'm always talking about spirit and culture and its use in revolutionary action and liberation. So today I have a special treat. I was able to pre-record an interview with the Chesapeake Conjure Society. I was able to get 4 members of the Chesapeake Conjure Society to come and chat about the revolutionary aspects of Hoodoo and really what it is, Hoodoo as a tradition. And we have part 1 available today, right now. So I urge you guys to just watch, listen, enjoy, and we'll come back at the end. Check it out.
Right here at the remix.
Welcome, everyone. This is Dr. Yeli Ichile. I'm so happy again to be with you. You will be seeing this recording on a Wednesday during my medicine bag segment, but this is a Sunday. We are doing the medicine bag on a Sunday, and I am excited. I am thoroughly excited to bring to you the Chesapeake Conjure Society. And these are some of the members of our society. And the Chesapeake Conjure Society is primarily based in the Baltimore, Maryland area. And I think it's important that we're recording on a Sunday because Sunday is a day of really collective spiritual work, community gathering, community building. And I just wanted to really quickly introduce you to the members we have with us today. We have Aisha Sneed, we have Harold Little Lightning Jones, we have Hess Love, and we have Toya Smith. Thank you so much for being with me today, with all of us today. And what I want to do is really quickly let folks know what the Chesapeake Conjure Society is and what conjure is in a broader sense. So, when did the Chesapeake Conjure Society begin?
Should I answer that? You know what? I think it started a couple of years ago, but we didn't have a formal name. And the things is, we had an event. So we had Say Her Name, we had Twerk in the Trees, we had so many things happening that we did. But whenever folks like, is there like a community? Is there a community? Like, no, not really, but we do stuff. And so pretty much Chesapeake Conjure Society exists as a way to name and place the things that we've always done or been doing for multiple years.
That's wonderful. So building on that, since this was really more of an organic coming together because you were having events and like-minded people who practice Hoodoo and see the importance of it and how pervasive it is in our lives as Black people, how did you connect back into Hoodoo itself? What is it? For people who don't know what conjure is or Hoodoo is, how would you explain that to them?
I can jump in. So Hoodoo, conjure, root work are names that we kind of use for a same general practice. And it is the African traditional religion of African Americans. So people here in what is known as the States now. When folks ask me to give them a really quick one sentence answer about what Hoodoo is, I say Hoodoo is Blackness. So everything we do, everything we are, everybody we are, the way we live in this world, all of that is Hoodoo. It is our faith practice, our religious practice, our dances, our songs, ourselves, and the way we move in the world is Hoodoo.
Ashe, that's wonderful to hear. There's Hoodoo in everything we do as Black people. It is because what we do is spiritual. It is inherently therapeutic and connective and all that. Does someone else want to build on that and more to contribute? How do we understand Hoodoo?
Yes, I heard it referenced in ethno-religion. And I thought that was, just a very succinct definition, that it definitely is an ethno-religion, like comparatively Judaism. You don't have to practice to be Hoodoo, but Hoodoo exists in Blackness, but you have to be Black and have this experience to practice.
It's a part of your culture.
It's a part of your culture.
Wow, that's beautiful. So how will we help to kind of, correct some of the misunderstandings? What is the most misunderstood aspect of Hoodoo in your experience?
That is devil worship. That is devil worship. Most of our ancestral understandings, and when I say ancestral understandings, I mean African understandings, specifically West African, because most of us who are now this new tribe of people known as African Americans are of West African descent. Most of those understandings do not have a devil. And so since we do not have a devil, this cannot in fact be devil worship, right? Most of Hoodoo, aside from our interaction with nature and with the spirits of place, is based on ancestor veneration. If your grandma wasn't the devil when she was here, she ain't the devil after she dead, right? So if what we're doing is working with our people, our direct bloodlines, and our community ancestors, our collective ancestors as Black people, it's no way in the world we worshiping the devil. We are sitting at the feet of our folks the same way we did if they were here in the physical realm. We do it now that they live in the spirit.
That's awesome. More misconceptions we'd like to clear up.
I'd like to jump in. This is probably for those who have a vague knowledge of Hoodoo, about what they can use Hoodoo for. And this kind of goes personal for me, but I've noticed a lot of people tend to degrade Hoodoo down to a bunch of tricks. It's not about that. Hoodoo is about healing and justice. It's about uplifting and elevating. It's about using what the earth provides to help you and your community. So to think that it's just, a bunch of tricks thrown out at people and things you don't like is a very, very dangerous misconception.
Sorry, that is an important intervention. So a lot of people think of Hoodoo as just like hexes and making somebody fall in love with you and spells and things like that, as opposed to really using this as a tool for helping, healing, and connecting community. So that's a really great segue into the next question. So how is Hoodoo revolutionary? How is it a part of our liberation struggle? How does it address things like racism and capitalism and sexism, homophobia and environmental destruction? How does Hoodoo address and get us free?
Hoodoo is liberation theology. It was the first. It was a rejection of Euro identity of whiteness. It was the amalgamation of all of our 46 ethnic groups and our practices, trying to survive and survive whiteness. It is liberation. So it is communalism. It is community work. It is maintaining our Africanness here in this space.
And contrary to what we see right now, Hoodoo itself is not a capitalistic practice, right? So if people are looking for things, of course, I'm gonna say patronize Black businesses, right? Because if you're going to be practicing a Black religion, then you go and you get your stuff from Black people. That said, our ancestors weren't out here buying candles and mojo bags and et cetera, in order to practice, right? You made what you needed with what you had to hand and what the earth gave you. So anything we need to practice Hoodoo can be found right outside your front door. If people say, how do I get the stuff I need? Go look and see what's outside. The earth is going to offer you anything you need to do anything you need. And where you live, you should be using the things that grow and are present where you live. So if you need the spirit of a place, anywhere you live, there's going to be a crossroads somewhere, right? Lots of times you will find a living body of water. So you will find a stream, you will find a river, you will find the ocean. The trees are outside, the flora and fauna are outside. You honor the spirits of the place. And if you have to make something like a spiritual bath, you don't have to have every herb in the world to hand, right? There's going to be some kind of cleansing plant outside. And if it ain't, 9 times out of 10, you got salt in your kitchen. Salt and water is an effective cleansing spiritual bath. Like, you don't have to buy anything to practice Hoodoo.
That is so important. A lot of people think you need lots and lots of money to practice African-based traditions. and there's a lot of hustling going on, but this is really such an important intervention. more things. I know we're getting close to time and we have more to do, but what else? What else? How is this liberatory? How does Hoodoo get us free?
One thing about Hoodoo is that it exists outside of the system. And so it doesn't depend on systemic things to exist. And it exists kind of contrary and antagonistic to that. Like, we don't need to depend on the state to provide us with anything to practice this. And the best practices are the ones where we don't depend on the state at all for it. And so it gives us a way to envision, what does a world without this current system look like?
That's such an important point. We come back to vision. We come back to sourcing and resources and seeing ourselves and what is natural, what we already have as the resource. And that removes us and pushes us away from our dependence on the state, which, as we know, is an oppressive force in our lives. That's important. And that is definitely something we've inherited from our ancestors. They understood that perhaps maybe better than we do. So that's wonderful. It connects us back to our connection with environment. So environmental justice is a priority there. I hear that. Obviously, it is anti-racist in its nature, and not to use the quippy phrase anti-racism, but it is pro-Black. It is affirming of Blackness. And so in that, it is against white supremacy and white terror. So I love this. So my next question is, what has been the most challenging aspect of being a Hoodoo practitioner for you? Any of you can answer, all of you can answer. You know, this is not a cakewalk. It's not necessarily easy, particularly since some of us have been divorced from our traditions in service of religions like Christianity or Islam, etc. But what has been really challenging for you about this Hoodoo life?
That's been it for me. I was raised in a very Christian household, and my father is actually a preacher. So I'm a preacher's kid. And so it can be very challenging to explain to your family, who has been raised in a very Abrahamic way, with very strange understandings of African people and their traditions, that what we're doing is not antichrist or evil or sinful or bad. And we talked a little earlier about the biggest misconception for me, that it is devil worship. Having to fight that in your own family is hard. It's hard. It has been long work, but it is starting to show fruit, you know? So I noticed that my family doesn't balk as hard if I light a candle and just kind of set it off to the side during a family dinner. And I say, this is for my Aunt Cheryl. And I just set it off to the side. You know, nobody says as much. My father last week just brought over a bag of random stuff. And one of the things was fennel. And he just said something like, I know you be doing your herb stuff. And so I figured you know what to do with this. You know, so it's starting to show little inklings of light. But that's been the hardest thing for me.
I guess too, I would add the acceptance from family. I think my family, mostly devoutly Christian, are just a little dismissive of it. You know, they see my shrines, they see my altar, they pay it no mind. If I put that's just symbolic. I feed the ancestors. It's symbolism. She's going to the cemeteries and we don't do that. But what's so funny is my family has had long held practices that are very Hoodoo, like keeping certain traditions, going on certain holidays to cemeteries and cleaning the graves of their loved ones, but mostly Christian. So when it gets to altars and shrines, it's just, she's just doing something.
Something, whatever that something is. What are the most beautiful or empowering aspects of Hoodoo for you? What's the most wonderful thing
Oh, I had something to add to the challenge.
Oh, sure.
My kids just started getting kind of quiet, and they're still in the background making noise. But I think for me, a challenge that I face as a hoodoo is the fact that a lot of people, including Black people, have accepted the white reimagining of hoodoo. They see it as tricks. They see it as not a religion. They see it as, just backwoods type of stuff. And it has been a challenge trying to combat that because not only is it a systemic attitude, but some of our own folks, even some folks who are in other ATRs do hold that attitude towards hoodoo as well.
Oh, yes. And by ATRs, we mean African traditional religion. So other people actually tend to look down on hoodoo as if it's not a valid tradition. Got it. Harold, did you want to build on that now that you're back?
Were we still on the challenging aspect?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So for me, the most challenging part was getting past my own self. The belief that my family and my loved ones and my friends would not support me in this. I'm a very inherently private person. I have no children and I'm single. So like hoodoo is throughout my home. My altar's set up and dried herbs hanging from the ceiling, as you can see in the corner. So it was a fear when people would come by that they might say something. And then I revealed it to my mother and she was like, oh, whatever, they'll come from a whole line of people that do that,
Here in this space.
Hi, everyone.
Sorry about that inexpert transition. It didn't go as smoothly as I had hoped. The plan failed, admittedly, but I did want to give you a chance to wrap us up because I know we gotta.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. It's okay. We'll come back. Harold was just explaining that hoodoo was already in his family and he hadn't told anyone. So when he came out as hoodoo, his mom was like, "Oh, welcome. It's been here." We're going to actually, because I just didn't want to cut this down because there's so much good stuff and it just gets more and more intense as the talk went on. We have part 2, and that part 2 will be premiering on the Black Power Media YouTube channel right after the end of the Remix Morning Show today at 10:15 Eastern Standard Time, so you can watch the rest. And they offer a really important tool for the toolkit in our medicine bag. They're going to teach you something. They're doing a demonstration of something that many of you actually requested a demonstration of, which is libation. Going into more detail about that. So please check it out. Go to Black Power Media. Find part 2 of this amazing interview with actual hoodoo practitioners. Everybody but Diddy is invited to go look at that. And I hope to get them back on again. I see this talk about sage in the chat. Lots of sage discourse, which has been really interesting. But we hope we've offered a little bit from the missing bag to.
I thought it was fascinating. And just to be clear, the whole thing is going to be there at 10:15, right on the Remix Morning Show playlist. So when we wrap up here, take a quick break, everybody, and then go back and either rewatch or speed ahead and catch back up and start where we left off. But it was a great interview. Thank you for doing that.
And these are really important folks. The practitioners that join me, they're just gifted and they teach, they do workshops on this stuff all the time. So they're just really good people to learn from. So you'll also get the links to their social media so you can follow them and learn more.
Yeah, Kamal was just thinking about going into hoodoo. That sounds good. I'm glad we got him on the right side of the fence.
You never know.
All right, thanks, Dr. Chile.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Salute, sis.
I want some hoodoo assistance. One of my family members has a racist saltine neighbor, and we need that nigga removed ASAP. So perhaps. Huh?
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning. My favorite, by the way, in addition to saltines, my favorite in that I picked up in the Navy was in addition to Gray Boys, my favorite was Keeblers. That was my favorite.
My favorite has always been Yaku.
Yaku.
That works.
All right.
Well,
Zungu
works,
Yeah, we use Mr. Boo Boo down here.
Yeah, Mr. Boo was my uncle's favorite for years. I'm like, who are you talking about? And then one day, like I was 25, he's like, you ain't figured out I'm talking about the white man.
Man, it wasn't until I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, when I heard like peckerwood like used, unironically. I was in these peckerwoods. I'm like, oh my God, people really say that. Interesting.
All right.
What I haven't heard too much is honky. I haven't heard that at all.
I throw it in every now and then.
Yeah.
Only on the Jeffersons.
Right.
Thank you. That's what
I
I
throw
thought.
it in every now and then. I'm down here in Georgia.
Honky was made up by the white people who wrote the Jeffersons, right?
Right.
I think so. That's why they're not offended by it. They're like, yeah.
When have you ever heard a black person say jive turkey?
Jive turkey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a black exploitation movie or somewhere. I don't know. You jive turkey. Anyway, to all you jive turkeys that's hating on the remix, you know what I mean? We don't play around here. Shout out to the honkies and all the whites.
You already see what happens to the people that try to put the dislike on the show. By the end of the show, they got to take it back. But salute to those haters, because at least they recognize you gonna have to earn that like button.
Oh yeah.
And when we do, they do. Right, they take it off. They recognize. So thanks, Roland. Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it.
And Rebecca Cornell.
I'm just playing. Hey, Ben is my man too, man. I got no problem with Ben, man. I got no problem with Ben.
Shout out to Ben, man.
But listen, Kim had an issue she wanted us to get to a little bit before we wrap up this morning.
Yeah, y'all, real quick. So, usually I do not suffer the opinions of random men sending me emails telling me what I need to be doing and what I don't need to be doing. However, this email did kind of get my attention. So this gentleman sent me an email to the show email, Burn It Down with Kim Brown. Y'all, please be sure to go over there and subscribe if you get an opportunity. Send an email saying, I wish you would stop saying black and brown when describing our condition, because brown don't stand with us. They don't stand with us. The natives don't stand with us. The Asians don't stand with us. The Persians, the Arabs, they don't stand with us. So why do you keep saying black and brown when describing a different conditions of oppression that people in America are experiencing? And I'm like, well, because whether or not these other marginalized communities know it or not, I mean, they are getting the nigger treatment. And they may not be getting the full nigger treatment, but they are getting the nigger treatment on some level. So whether or not they acknowledge that fact or not does not negate the fact that we are actually in community in terms of fighting white supremacy together. But I wanted to pose that to y'all because I do know and understand that there's a lot of indigenous anti-blackness, a lot of Asian anti-blackness. And how do we sort of wrestle or come to grips with the levels of white supremacy adoption that other marginalized people have adopted in terms of their stance on being anti-black towards us? So I wanted to pose that to y'all because, I believe when I say black and brown, I mean black and brown, because I know the Latinx and the indigenous people are catching hell just like we are. But I do know also parts of their communities, go PU niggas, So what is y'all take on that? And I like to get the take of the chat as well.
Well, I think I was just gonna say real quick. We can't leave out the anti-blackness that's within our own group. You know what I mean? So we're going, if that's a criteria, then there's a whole bunch of black folks that we ain't gonna include in this either. I just think that real quickly, I just feel like, those type of like conversations like that really are people to me who are really misinformed. Because I know if you're really in these circles, in the activist circles, you see the natives rocking with us. You see the Asians and other marginalized groups that's rocking with us. You're never going to get everybody. And that's just how it is.
Yeah. And then the other part of that is, these people also don't know history. And they don't know that within these communities, there have always been among those radicals who are indigenous, those radical Chicanos, those radical Asians who have struggled with this very issue among their communities. So, we also have to remember this is a product for all of us, all marginalized people, of a white supremacist and imperialist indoctrination. There is this anti-black issue among all of us, even among black folks, because that's what the state indoctrinates us to believe, and that's here and around the world. So, like, I mean, yeah, there's never going to be everybody. There's not going to be a kumbaya moment here. In the revolution and the radicals, there never has been. No revolution has ever been won by 80% of the population. It's always been a few folks who were like, fuck this, let's burn it down. And a few folks from other oppressed groups going, you know what? Yeah, you're right, fuck this. And those people get together and everybody else stands around going, oh, I didn't know it was that bad.
Yeah.
I think
That's
another
it's
thing.
really simple. Like sometimes you just got to try to speak in specific terms instead of just making blanket statements about the Asians, the Chinese, the Arabs, and just say I support the ones who stand in solidarity with me.
There you go.
I support or specific groups. Like specific is terrific. Like you don't have to generalize and say they hate us, they love us. I think also we need to get out of the language of who cares about us, who loves us, who hates us. Like we really need to think about how we feel about ourselves and then focus, on those who stand in solidarity from there and be specific about groups and dynamics within groups. Yeah, like all the things you were saying, Jackie, like we just have to be really specific instead of speaking in broad like ethnic terms or just broad nationalistic terms about who our friends and enemies are.
Yeah, to add on, I think that we have to stop being engaging in the sidetracking of the slave. It's like right now we got to be clear of who our enemy is. Okay, like you all are saying, we get caught up in what's his religion. You know what I'm saying? I heard this cat's a Muslim. What's his gender? I heard this one was that. What's this? What's that? All of that sounds good, but it interrupts the fight itself. Right now, in the middle of war, we're not checking to see if a cat behind me is busting my enemy down. I'm not trying to look and see what color he is, what region of the world he's from, what side of town he's from, what kind of colors he's wearing, none of that type of stuff. At the end of the day, we got to be clear about who our enemy is. Now, and we have to step the game up because of the fact that we have cats talking about allies. I respect the whole allies, but we got to know the difference between an ally and a comrade. I'm looking for comrades. I'm not looking for allies. I'm not looking for a cat to just be on the side and say, woohoo, I sent $5 in. Although those $5 might work to help us build some shit, at the end of the day, we're looking like who's going to help us fight this battle. And I think that we have to say, okay, boom, black, brown, whatever, you know what I mean? Be clear about, like you all said, who's on the right side of history. You know what I mean? We don't like each other. You know what I mean? You got cats complaining, well, I don't like Kalanji cussing. I don't like this and whatever. And Kalanji every now and then to say, fuck that, because that's just Kalanji. But at the end of the day, where are we going with this thing? Are we looking to win or are we looking to look good losing?
I'll add briefly, I my politics are about Black liberation struggles. And so I will probably, if I talk about things to do with struggle, I'm going to probably lead and say, well, this is what Black folks have to do and so forth and so on. I obviously believe that people suffer from similar conditions. And so we do have solidarity, and where solidarity overlaps, solidarity should be used as part of everybody trying to get free of this sort of racist capitalist state. But I am usually very clear about my own particular standing on this, is that I think there is a native and or indigenous struggle which overlaps but is somewhat separate. I think there are struggles around folks who are minorities or immigrants into this country, which is separate but overlaps at times. And so I don't necessarily claim other folks when I talk about my politics. I claim this is what I think we as a people need to do. And for those that we share a common understanding of the issue, the problem, and solutions, then this is where we need to get on board and do stuff with it. And the only reason I do that in particular, at least I try to, is, again, I think most folks are trying to suggest that the struggle is really about opening up America and making America fair and just for all. And so I try to separate myself slightly for that, because I believe that America is not, America is not going to be the solution to our problems, because America is the problem itself. Mm-hmm. And so dismantling America and then Black folks having the ability to decide for ourselves what's next for us. How do we interact with other folks? How do we build what we need to build? Because no one, again, is going to save us or give us justice. We need power, and power is something you have to take, and be clear about that.
Mm-hmm. Listen, in the interest of time, yeah, absolutely. I just want to thank everybody for the question, for the comments, for all the stuff in the chat as well, all the viewership. And in the interest of time, I will just say for today, as is often the case, hashtag Dr. Ichile speaks for me. And with that, I appreciate all the good work of all the crew this morning, all the people, everybody, and of course, Sister May in the back, Ear Doctor, everybody. Yep. Kalanji, thanks for holding it down on the hosting thing, and you know, Remix Morning Show, Black Power Media. We'll see you next morning. Keep it rocking. Right. Boom Bat Breakfast. Peace, everybody, if you're willing to fight for it.
Yes, all that good ready stuff. For revolution all day, every day.
Have a great day, y'all.
Yes, indeed.